riders.
Hey,
What's up,
everyone.
peoples? Hi, Kates.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh my God, it's a day. It's
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 day.
today. What the heck is today? Today is Tuesday. There it is.
Tuesday.
It's
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 Tuesday.
Tuesday. All right. We're gonna get into the flow recording real quick. Just a
Mhm.
couple of fancified reminders.
Ooh,
Um,
fancified reminders.
Yeah. Don't forget you can drop your questions in. Just hit your little Q colon, whatever. If you
Mhm.
happen to have something, we'll pop in and answer it.
Yeah.
Gonna do a quick little, countdown. Remind everybody that Leap into Life selling is popping off. So
Mhm.
go to leapintolive.com. That's leapintolive.com. Go check that out. So you can, find yourself a spot to hang out with some of us. We're going to be talking about all things live selling. And super interesting that we're doing that conference. I was talking to a friend of mine who has a retail space and was like, can you just sell stuff on IG during IG Live? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, what software do you need? I'm like,
Allow us to help you.
nothing. I'm like, all you need to do is have your Ecamm on and just, you can sell it. And they go, oh, well, how you going to take orders? I'm like, in the DMs. I know people that do nothing but use their phone and make lots just by taking orders in the DMs. Like, you don't have to make it fancy, but if you want to make it fancy, we got stuff that we can show you. So that's going to
Yeah.
be cool. It's going to be
Yeah,
super
Leap
interesting.
Leap is coming, and then super teaser reminder for everyone. Creator Camp is in October, and we've started moving people off the wait list and onto the official "You're Coming" registered attendees. So I see Obs and Gretchen and Paul in the chat. All three of them are locked and loaded, ready to go. Doc and I are going to be there. It's going to be awesome. It's been so much
Yeah, I
fun
was talking to
planning.
Obs about it last week. We had our monthly phone call, and I was like, "Come on, Obs, let's
You
go."
gotta do it. You gotta do it. Yeah. So it's gonna be so much fun. So yeah, if you're sitting there and you're like, oh shoot, I did not get on the wait list, or I'm worried, we're capping it at 100 people. So I can only be so nice. So now is the time to reach out and ask questions, or make sure that you're on the wait list. Make sure that you check in your email for the official ticket registration link. We don't want anyone to miss out, but some people are going to miss out. So don't be one of them. be
There you
there so that
go.
we can hang out. It's going to be a really great time.
What did they used to say back in the old? Yeah, be there or be square.
Be there, be square. Exactly.
Oh my God, that was such a funny statement back in the day.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Okay, let's start this bad boy. I'm
Let's
gonna
do
do
it.
the quick countdown, and then we can get all the way in. Let me make sure that this is done and this is popped out, and then we're good to
Oh,
go.
quick. So quick. I'm going to answer a quick question before we pop in. So someone was
Okay.
asking about where we can sign up for Creator Camp. So the waitlist link is still open for a little tiny bit longer. You go ecamm.tv/Creator Camp. I'm sure Paul will drop that in as well. But yeah, make sure that you're on the waitlist, and then check your email, because we've been sending emails each day, removing people from the waitlist and adding them to tickets. So don't miss it. Don't miss your chance. All right, go ahead, Doc. Sorry.
All right, no,
We're
we're
holding you
good
for
to go.
countdown.
I see we have a question that's disguised as not a question, but I just only caught it because he has Raiders in his name, so I was done. I found it. Don't worry, we'll get to that. Anyway,
Hang on, hang on. We'll get you.
let me
Yeah.
count this down. And Pharaoh, next time, please put a Q colon. It makes it easier. The only reason why I caught that is because I bleed silver and black. Let's go. Gotta do my pre-podcast exercises here. And counting it down in 5, 4. Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to another edition of The Flow. I'm your community manager from Ecamm, Doc Rock, along with my awesome co-host.
Katie Fawkes.
I was gonna say my
We
awesome
never
Katie
do that
host.
properly. We never do that properly, Doc.
Oh my God. I
It's
think
just
that's
not gonna
part
be a
of the
joke.
fun. It's
Yeah.
just to see how bad I was literally going to say the awesome Katie host. It got stuck.
Hi, I'm
All
Katie
right.
Host.
Hey, welcome to early in the morning. Here we go.
Yeah.
Today we're going to be just going over some of the stuff that we do for prep again. We did this a while ago, but I think it's a great idea, Katie, to
Lots
do
of
this
updates.
again
So
because
many
there are
updates.
so many updates, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the updates are there, but also one of the things that I was just talking to my crew with the other day is
Mhm.
part of any skills process
Mhm.
is revisiting sometimes your basics, but just
Yeah.
checking to see where you've gotten better
Yep.
and if there's still opportunities left to go. It's
Oh, yeah.
almost like a midstream SWOT analysis, right?
I love it. I love a
So we're
SWOT
gonna
analysis.
we're gonna so do I. That's literally that was one of my favorite parts of marketing school
It's
was doing
so true.
SWOT
So true.
analysis.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, just because on podcasts, you're supposed to remind people in case they didn't know, a SWOT stands for SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So that's where it
Mhm.
is. Not SWAT like it. Open the door.
I know.
It's
Yeah, today's
not
episode is brought to you by the SWAT team.
the SWAT team. All right,
Aw.
gang. So let's dive in. Katie, of all of the things that we've done, traditionally during prep, what is the one part that we do differently now that you really, really like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like most of the updates that we've been making over the last little bit is in the editing and release stage. So, if you all remember, I again, as a reminder, this podcast is live streamed using Ecamm Live out to YouTube every single Tuesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, and we use that as our live recording time. So we don't do batch recording. We don't spend a ton of time worrying about, pausing and recording again and doing a retake and we live record, and then we end up at the end of that live recording, so in the next hour or so we will have our final video files and audio files, and those will go over to Luis, who is our fantastic producer and editor, and Luis spends, anywhere from a few days to a week editing all of those files and putting them all together. Where we've made a lot of improvements is in that kind of final process, because every Tuesday we also release last week's episode out through our podcast tool host. There's the word, podcast host, Captivate. We also upload, the edited video to now YouTube podcast. Yay! Used to be just our YouTube playlist, but now is an official YouTube podcast. And we also upload it to our website. We have a video database over there, and so a couple of the things that we've done that have made that process a lot more smooth and just seamless is that it had been that Luis was editing, and then he would upload that file to Box where we have all of our files stored, and then he would let me know when it was ready. I would go into Box, I would download that file, I would then put that file into Descript and begin the editing process, and then I would have to upload the file back to YouTube, and I would upload it to Searchy, which is where our video hub is, and then I would grab the transcript, and then I would use those for closed captions. There's all these additional steps in the way. So what we have gotten to is now Luis is part of our Descript team now, so an official Descript team member, and now he can automatically add that file for us into Descript, so it's just there and I see it and I can start working on it. And he has also uploaded it to YouTube for me, so now I don't need to worry about a lot of that downloading and uploading time, which is saved me a bunch of time, and I can just immediately start working on it in Descript without kind of having to wait for that to process as well. So that whole section I think has gotten a lot smoother. We're still working on it. Literally in the kind of behind the scenes tech check this morning, we were talking about like, okay, like what else could we do to simplify this? Like, is it working for you? Is it working for me? Like, where are kind of some of the bumps along the way? Where we were talking a little bit about timing. So, as you can imagine, if you used a script, like I'm a heavy editor sometimes with that, and then that shortens the video, which then messes with the timing of the caption. So some of those things we're trying to figure out along the way. But I would say that's probably our biggest, for me anyway, that's been the biggest change that we've made over the last little bit. And I think it continues to be just simplifying that process and making it more streamlined and faster so that we can start doing things like bringing back blog posts and additional content that we want to be able to share with people, and some of these other opportunities that we haven't yet dived into just because we haven't had the time in our process.
Right. So it's funny, I just wrote in the chat, like it seems as if we have a better dare I say it, flow.
You guys, we have a better
Dun,
flow.
dun,
We
dun,
have a
dun.
better flow.
Drink.
Drink,
Uh,
yeah.
thank you, Camera Junkie. So to me, one of the best parts of the sort of the new flow, if you will, is and I know this is challenging for some people because so many people are told by so many other people to batch record.
Yeah.
I've never been a fan of that, but primarily I think that's because my jade or my shade to batch recording is twofold.
Mhm.
One is that's for you. That's not for your audience. And I'm gonna
True.
say I'm
It's
saying that
true.
in the meanest way absolutely possible.
Yeah.
Batch recording is all about you, very little about your audience. And I
Yeah.
think the reason why I feel so strongly about that is I've always been in tech, right?
Mhm.
So April 4th tech is gonna be completely different from
Very
April
good point.
11th tech.
Yep.
Between the 4th and 11th, a whole lot of crap can go down, like a metric F ton, right?
Very true.
So, if you batch record it because it makes your life easier, um, cool, knock yourself out. It might work in your industry, but, like, I've always been in tech, so to me, it's just I'm gonna be late talking about some stuff and that's not the best highest and best use case for the audience. It's just me. Now you can do it if you have to, and I know a lot of people think they should. I've just never been a fan of that, right?
Yeah.
So I like the fact that we can remain topical, especially because imagine last week, and we really didn't talk about it as much last week,
We will
but
this week. Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
but last week, there was still major changes in the YouTube podcast space, and
Yep.
that is a massive announcement. And then so what happens is, I believe it's okay to have one or two evergreen episodes in the can. Those means
Mhm.
that they can get pushed down and just come out whenever they come out because something will come up. There will be a week where you can't go. I
Yep.
think that's fine. But even then, like, I hope that your mailbag episode is still topical. Like, what if we had a recorded mailbag episode where we're talking about all of the dopeness inside Ecamm Live 3.10?
Exactly.
You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? Like, we
Yeah.
dropped 4.0 a month and a half ago, and,
Mhm.
maybe we kept that episode because we were ready to release it in case something comes up, and then, next week, we're both traveling,
Yep.
and that episode would be, "Oh, what the hell are they talking about 310? We're on 4.1 almost."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I I don't know. That's just been a thing for me, and I know so many people believe it, but I hear. Okay, well, let me put this again in better context. Even last week when we're doing Podfest,
Mhm.
most of the questions tend to be self-serving, and I know they don't think that, they don't mean that. That's just what they hear everybody else say. And strangely enough, a lot of the big podcasters are self-serving.
Mhm.
So they do things that affect them, but their audience is baked. Their audience is ride or die.
Mhm.
I'll tell you right now that if I go to a concert and I'm going to go watch, say, Jay-Z, and he shows up an hour and a half late, I ain't mad. Yeah, is that
Exactly.
self-serving?
Yep.
Yes. But I'm going to see the GOAT. Like, I ain't mad. Eminem shows up 2 hours late. Cool. Marshall, what do you need, fam? Can I get you some water? Like, I'm not mad because I'm that ride or die about that, right?
Katie
You,
shows
you
up
know,
an hour and a half late, no one there. No one
right,
there at
right,
all.
right. So don't think that just
Yeah.
because other cats get away with it mean you can, right?
Or you
If if
should. Yeah.
if a large podcaster came to you and said, "Hey, we batch record 17 episodes." Okay, like I love true crime obsessed.
Mhm.
English, right? I know they batch record. They do like 3, 4 episodes in a row because
Yeah.
they're doing a series of a Netflix show,
Yep.
and the Netflix show is broken up over 4 episodes. They'll record 4 podcasts that day, or they'll do it in,
Well,
2 days back to back. But they
and
also
their
do
content
Broadway.
isn't timely or topical. Like, they're talking about older cases and they're diving deep into it, and it's not like at the beginning of the episode they're saying, the only instance where they would run into an issue is if, like, they were talking about, say, a case that was unsolved, and, like, in between recording it and, releasing it, they found the killer, like, in which case they would probably have to go back and add in, like, an intro that's like, breaking news, before you dive into this case with us, like, we have this update. But I think what you said is really relevant because in many cases, the content that you need to really be thinking about that as a podcaster, right? Like, is the content that you're sharing timely and topical? In which case, you probably do need a format similar to ours, or or don't be doing batch recording, or be really conscious of when you're doing batch recording or why you're doing it. If not, then fine. If that works best for you and it's not going to harm your audience, that's fine. I would also argue that it it's much, and we've said this a ton on the show, but it's much easier to bail out on a show and kind of and enter that pod fade space when you're batch recording, because it's way easier to say like, oh, I have 10 episodes in the bag, like I'm now just going to continue on with my day to day, my life, my whatever. And then for those episodes to just be gone, and you forgot, you got busy, whatever happened, your co-host couldn't make it, you were sick, the kids, etc., and you don't have time to do the next batch recording, or you haven't scheduled or planned that out. Like, batch recording isn't a magic bullet. It still requires a process, and
Yep.
and a regularity and a consistency to it. So yeah, I would say just really, again, and this is the point of this show, like, figure out what workflow is going to work for you, own it and stick to it, making small changes as you go to get better, because it's not none of it is going to be easy if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a process. You need to stick with your process, and you need to constantly be updating and iterating on your process, or you are going to fail. You are absolutely going to fail because it's hard and things get in the way.
It was really funny when you said that. I was going to say every single one of us has been on the other side of the island and realized that we didn't fill the tank up. No, that's just
Oh,
us.
yeah. Well,
But
I've been guilty of that in
in
different
your
ways,
in your
maybe not the
car, yeah.
island part. Yeah.
Everybody's done this in their car because,
Yeah.
it was weird when I was a kid. I was either my dad or my grandpa. They always hammered in us. Actually, it was probably my grandpa that got my dad to say it, but we never drip past a half a tank. At worst case scenario, never go under a quarter tank,
Yep.
because one of the things that happens here, like especially, is we have hurricane season. This week we're having hurricane like type weather. Like, it flooded like majorly the other day. It was kind of psycho. But you're on an island, you just don't know when those topical storms are just going to come. Topical.
Yep.
Alrighty. I live in the topics. Wow. This is that
Some of
kind
us
of
have
day.
topical storms. They come at us. They come at us.
So
I believe it.
by always having at least a half a tank, you're good. So, like, topping it off, especially when you have the time, like going to top off. And now my family insists on going to Costco, even though you're not saving any money at Costco. Like,
Yep.
Costco gas is 25 cents a gallon cheaper, but you have a 15-gallon truck. Like, you can't save but like $4, man. Like,
Yeah.
come on. It takes an hour to get that joint, but they insist on going. But by keeping it up, right? Like, if there was a storm tomorrow, we're not those people running to the gas station the day the storm thing goes off and the man comes, "Hi, this is Guy Hoggy. Today we're going to have tropical storm. So make sure you have your batteries and your spam and your water and your toilet paper be ready." We only have that stuff, right? I have cases of it lined up against the wall just in case something happens.
Yeah.
And people here will be in the line at the gas station around the block, freaking out in the car, raining, windy, car shaking from the wind, but they're
Yeah.
trying to catch that gas so they can be prepared just in case, the big one comes.
Yeah.
Me, I never have to think about that, right? All of that stuff is prepped and prepared. And it's not like a doomsday prepper or anything. It's just being ready. So, yeah, in a way, but you just mentioned a very key thing that made me think of this. A lot of people did it 3 storms ago, right?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't know if you know this, but bottled water in plastic kind of shouldn't be around for more than about 3 years. The bottle says 5. It tastes like plastic after 3 because it's micro leaching into there, right?
Yep.
So you got to remember, even the old cans of spam or the old bottled water, you got to remember to swap that out every couple of times, right? So,
Yep.
like, I have a gigantic sticker on it. When I walk past it, I can see, okay, drink that one now and replace it next time you go to
Mhm.
Target, because you don't want to have to be stuck with no power, no electricity, and plastic flavored water. It'll just be
Yeah.
nasty. So when you
Yeah.
prep, don't prep so much that you get comfortable in your prep. You always got to check your prep, right? No matter
Mhm.
what it is, right? And that people do that. They're like, "Oh, I ran out of episodes, and I don't feel like doing one today."
It Time flies and things happen. I mean, we have this pretty like repeatable, quote unquote, easy process here at the Flow. But last week, everything went crazy, right? The internet went out at Luis's. We had like,
That was
every
funny.
possible thing that happened, right? But we were able to still get out an episode again because we have a workflow that works. So we were able to record enough of the podcast episode to really get the value of the content. We had a guest on. We had to be respectful of her time. She's in the UK, so it was hard to schedule her time. We're all on different time zones. We got enough of the episode out to be able to finish it. And then again, because we have a week between when our episode records and when we release it, we were able to, edit the podcast. Luis was able to drop in like a fun like ending to wrap up the episode later. We're still good to go today to release that episode. If everything had completely fallen apart, we still would have been able to either re-record, jump back on in that week and do like a pop-up live stream or a shorter recorded episode, maybe just with you and I, or pulling the content that we had talked to Sarah about, and been able to pull that off because we've given ourselves that week and we know we have time blocked off within the week. That's like we're working on the podcast that week. So, things are always going to happen, whether you live stream it or you record it or whatever. There's always going to be an instance of something happening. There's always going to be, time's going to fly by faster than you think. You're going to have a guest that shows up with worse quality, all these different things that happen. And Luis is saying, my bad. It happens. Like all of these things
And
happen, but knowing we
technically, it
have a
wasn't
backup
even his
plan,
bad.
it
That's
wasn't
the
even
funny
your,
part,
yeah, it's like the
right?
internet just goes out. What are you going to
This,
do?
to me, I think one of the funniest things that ever happened in the history of internet is the neighbor chopped the optical cable with,
Yep.
digging in the backyard.
Yep. Yeah. You
So
can't control
that's
your
funny.
neighbors. Yep.
Yo,
Yeah.
the question is, have you seen his wife? That's all I want to know. Like, you see, he's digging in the backyard in the middle of the day. Like,
Exactly right. The true crime brain. Is she okay? Is she
yeah,
okay?
check on the missus, see if
Check on
she's
your
okay.
missus.
Man, so I think another thing that's been really cool about what's going on with the Flow is that although we are getting a groove, we haven't gotten complacent in our groove. We're constantly trying to make changes to make things better. Part of that is us experimenting for the Flow Riders,
Yeah.
and part of that is self-serving, right? Like
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
making it
totally.
better to make our things better.
Yeah.
So some of the things that we're figuring out is like, okay, on my side, for instance, thanks to Danny and Sarah picking on me, going into Captivate and
Yep.
tightening up the way that I can put in the show notes and put in the templates that for the
Yeah.
show, tightening up some of the stuff when it comes to doing the thumbnails, right? Having a Canva template that it's set up as a template. I know what a lot of this sounds really crazy. And this is a minor thing. You can set up a Canva graphic and just duplicate the page
Just
and keep
duplicate the
going
next
down.
page. Exactly. Yep.
What I used to do, I'd hate to admit this, was duplicate the project for the
Yeah.
single page and
Yep.
duplicate the project,
Yeah. Same.
and then next thing you know, you're scrolling to find another project, and you realize you have like 12 of these, thumbnails in a row that makes a gap between, and you can't find it because you didn't scroll far enough. So yeah, if you put them all on a single page and just duplicate the page as if you're doing a presentation, it
Mhm.
does make saving take an extra step because you don't want to save them all. You want to go in and select just the one that you
Just
need.
the one. Yep. Hmm.
But having it as a template and being able to go in there and rock that out really quickly, super
Yep.
beneficial. Other things that I've done is going to Alphonic. I run the process through Alphonic at the very, very end,
Hmm.
just as a double check on audio levels and make sure
Yep.
everything is at the proper. It's called final mastering, right? And in Alphonic, even have made a flow template so that when I open it up in my browser, there is, I click on the flow, everything is in there, the metadata is in there. You just go in and make some changes and you let that out. So those are the things that have been really, really beneficial when
Yeah.
it comes to putting it together. And I think as people get into this video podcasting stuff,
Yeah.
you get better at it. And what you don't realize is the amount of time it takes you to edit will go down
Yeah.
because one, you get better at editing. just happens. It
Yep.
happens from doing it. But secondarily, because you get better at editing, you actually get better at recording
Yeah,
because you
exactly.
know what
Yeah.
you have to do to edit it. So for all of you people that hate editing, fix your recording. If
Mhm.
you record on point, then your editing becomes very little. And this was super apparent to me 2 weeks ago. I did the Hive with Jared, and then so Jared, we get ready to start. We do our little pre-show, talking, bantering, we're laughing. I had just come back from hanging out with Jared, so we were all fresh in each other's
You're in
head.
the zone. Yeah.
Right. Go in, record the show, and then when it was done, I was like, "Oh, so when are you gonna edit this?" He goes, "I'm not." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That was perfect. I'm just gonna let it out." I was like, "There you go." Like
Mhm.
he set it up in a manner where he could just go straight down the pipe and everything was perfectly flowing. And the only minor mistakes we had just came from us just cracking up, nothing to do with anything. But that's part of the personality of the show, is
Yep.
that it was a conversation between friends. So the part where we cracked up and went sideways for a minute, just left it in there because it allowed people to see us as humans and not as just absolute dorks, which are equally true. I think
Both are true.
some of you guys are taking yourself too seriously
Yeah.
and you're editing out too much of you, and people want to see you. They don't
Yep.
really care how perfect you can edit.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Well, I don't want to go all the way through this episode without talking about YouTube podcasts. I know that we have videos on this playlist, on the podcast playlist actually, that go into depth about how to. So we won't go too far into that process. But a big question last week, and I'm sure with a lot of the flow riders, is okay. Say I've there. I think a couple different possibilities, right? Either folks have never done a video podcast at all and they have an audio podcast. Folks haven't done a podcast at all and want to start in the video podcast space. Or folks have been doing a video podcast, but they've been doing something kind of similar to us and they have like a YouTube playlist. What are all the different processes to make sure that they are optimized and ready to go in the YouTube podcast space? How do they take advantage of it and how quickly do they need to move?
You ain't did it yet. You slow. I'm gonna just go ahead.
It's too
Yeah,
late. Give up now. It's too
yeah.
late. Go home.
It's never too late, but you just have to be fully aware that you're behind the eight ball, right?
Yeah.
This is weird, and I'm a little bit sticky about this, and you're highly opinionated, so you can ignore everything I say and do what you want, but don't at me later, right? Now,
Yep.
I do accept your rights later. I do accept those. I
Doc has been
do
talking about this for a while now, everyone. He
30
has we
months.
basically
I
started the
tracked it.
show with the notion that this would be a thing, and here we are. So
Correct, correct.
yes.
So I definitely wanted Toby because everyone. This is me in a nutshell, and I'm sorry for you guys who insist on having these feelings. But when it comes to this type of stuff, like, no, I don't hate puppies. I hate broccoli. I don't hate people. I like people for the most part. There's a couple people on my radar, Paul. Um, but but it's these kind of things aren't about your feelings. These are just raw dog facts. So I feel that this is going to whatever, knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. Add whatever you want to add, but I'm telling you what the facts are, and you can either ignore these facts or you can run with it. YouTube podcast is definitely a go. It has been a go since I started talking about it 30 months ago, but people chose to ignore me. But it's
Yep.
definitely a go. I don't feel any jade about that. When it flips officially and then you decide to move because you were waiting for it to be absolutely perfect, Tom Buck, it will be too late. Uh,
Do it
those of
now.
us,
Do
those of
it
us who
now.
decided to start already, like Jared and I, as we sit back and laugh at Tom, um, we'll have a head start. Right now, the people that come late that have massive followings, yeah, they'll blow right past us. But
Yeah.
people are always looking for an opportunity to get a leg up, to be seen quicker, do a couple of things. This is one of those
This is
moments,
it.
fam. This
Yeah.
is legit one of those moments. And theoretically, you should have did this 2 weeks ago. But go in. It's very simple to set up as a podcast. YouTube has an official video. I've made a video. Pat Flynn has made a video. Sean Cannell's made a video.
Mhm.
So I know I'm in good company because they made videos, right? Uh,
Choose
the
your favorite
biggest
doc stocks.
the biggest question is is YouTube gonna make an RSS feed? Who, insert your favorite bad word here, cares?
Yes,
Like,
yeah.
really though, do you care? Like, what is the RSS feed doing for you?
Yeah.
Making your job easier? Maybe, but it's not about you, it's about your audience, right? So just get in there, create your video podcast. Now, the second question that came up, and my answer is a little stern. I know this, but I just wanted to be truthful as possible because people get wrapped up again in their feelings, and I kind of don't care about your feelings in this case, right? Your cat died. I'll deal with you, but you have feelings about this because Doc is mean about this. Sorry, deal with it. I have 4,000 episodes in audio in the can. I have 100 episodes of audio in the can. I have 3 years of episodes of audio in the cans. So insert your favorite bad word here. What? We're talking about video podcasts.
Yeah.
Can you take an audio podcast, audio only, and put it on YouTube? Yes. Does it work? No,
No.
just doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
Can you sell Coke paraphernalia in the Pepsi store? Yes. Will anybody buy it? No.
Yeah.
Ride or die Pepsi people are ride or die Pepsi people. Ride or die Coke people are ride or die Coke people.
Mhm.
It's almost like that with the audio video thing. Like just taking your old audio episodes and uploading them to YouTube, it's just whack. And Podbean has had this button since I signed up for Podbean round about 10 years ago. And all they would do is put your episode there with the thumbnail of your episode. Then people got cute and started adding the audio wave to the episode. None of that really works. Like, that's not the way people want to see YouTube. Even if a large portion of people listen to YouTube episodes ambiently,
Yeah.
they still want to see like something moving in the back, right? So if you're going to go out with your drone and fly around Rabbit Island and shoot, aerials of Rabbit Island for you to talk under, that would work better than just a thumbnail. So unless you're going to go into story blocks or art lists, and both of those are really good, by the way, and put a bunch of visuals on top of every single one of those 200 episodes you have in the can, uh, don't.
Just go
Just
just
start.
go forward. Yeah, like everyone, we're also kind of again, we're in this phase of being overthinking it and being really kind of concerned about, well, we want the YouTube people to be able to know like how awesome our show is. Get excited and do it, do your first episode that goes to YouTube and out to your podcast listeners on all the various platforms and be like, now we're going forward. Now we are a video podcast as well. So you can watch or listen wherever you want. Listeners, nothing will change on your end unless you want to move over and grab the video. It'll be there. YouTube people, welcome. If you want to check out our back catalog, it's still audio only. You can listen to it here, but going forward, we're going to do video. That's an exciting update in the life of your podcast. Make it an exciting update and move forward. Don't worry about the back catalog. Or consider maybe if there's a couple of episodes that might be fun to update or to redo that might benefit both your listeners and your new viewers. So it's worth it, I think, to just take those steps forward. So if we're thinking in that notion, which we hope everyone is, and we're taking steps forward and adding YouTube on, how complicated is the process to change it from a YouTube playlist to a YouTube podcast?
Can you press a button?
I can press a button.
That's it. It's literally press a button, add the title, add the
Yeah.
description, game over. The title should be exactly the title that it exists already on Apple Podcast,
Yeah,
Spotify,
that's
Google
an important one.
Podcasts,
Yep.
wherever it's go. But other than that, yeah, that's it. It's a matter of pressing a button. And then
Yep.
once you press that button, because on YouTube, podcasts are playlists. It's just a
Yep.
playlist. We already had the playlist in play. Katie had it named differently because she was making it easy for people to find it, but I just reinvented it. And I realized that when I did that, I broke it. So, um,
See, and we
what
learn. Yeah.
what I should have done was just make a copy of that playlist and retitle it, but I initially broke it, but then I realized Katie had a bunch of links to things on that, in
It
the Ecamm
happens.
space. So
Yeah.
yes, I went and fixed it, but everything's gravy now, and it all works.
Yeah.
The other thing that I kind of want to be brutally honest, your podcast has to be like circa 84, sorry, take that back, circa 89 Cindy Crawford for somebody to go back and listen to your past episodes. Most of you guys ain't there. Let's be dead honest.
Yeah,
We're not there. And I'm badass. I'm
yeah,
joking. We're not there. No one really is going to go back and binge a bunch. When I get an email that says, "Hey man, I just found this and I went back and I binged all of this," that was cool. Like I really, really appreciate that person because that person's a little psycho. Most people just ain't going to do it, right? Even if you think about some of the best in the business, right? Pat's an amazing human being. Pat's podcast is fantastic. I am not going to go back and try to listen to 3 years of Pat. And Pat has fantastic information. I am not going to try to go back and listen to 15 years of Gary Vee. And Gary Vee is fantastic. What he has to say about right now is important because more than a year back, everything he said is wrong now.
yeah.
It's all changed, right? So the idea, depending on your show, like unless it's a book type thing, and
Yeah,
I
it's a
mean like
book
Serial,
or it's true yeah, or it's true crime or it's like if it's something where
a
because
story flow.
I will definitely like binge old episodes of, of my favorite true crime podcast, but I'm typically going back and looking for cases that I find interesting or, or content that is not topical or timely, like is really what it's going to come down to. So again, that kind of those same series of questions that you'd be asking when you're thinking about batch recording would apply here as well. Like if you're doing something where the information that you're providing stays the same because it's based on history or or like a story or a narrative, or something like that, then fine. But if you're like making a marketing podcast or technology or trends or sports or anything where that information is going to be outdated within a year, then yeah, your back catalog, sorry to say to everyone, is probably pretty irrelevant to most people. It's just there to show the how long you've been at this, and giving yourselves some kind of ability for people to take a look at who you are as a show and who you are as a person. But yeah, it's probably only going to be those like really yeah, history or like event based podcasts like true crime or like any that are narrative or storytelling where people will actually go back all the way. And even then you'll know like some of my favorite true crime podcasts, will admit that those initial episodes, like, they sounded underwater, their microphone technology wasn't as good, they now have like XYZ extra thing that they do, right? So like there is
Yeah.
still an evolution in those, and there's still an expectation of viewers and listeners that those older original episodes are not going to be perfect. They've liked you for a reason, they've come into your newer episodes, and they're willing to go all the way back. But yeah, it's an important reminder again that it doesn't have to be perfect. The lack of perfection is why people like you and listen to you. It's going to be an evolution and a process and a workflow, and get a little bit better each and every single time.
Yeah, and man, if you go back to very original, like Elena and Ash podcast of
Yeah,
Morbid,
they joke
they're
that they sound
so
underwater.
dude, they're so trashy, but they're hilarious because they were so green. Now they're
Yeah,
very, very smooth. But
yeah,
they're funny back then, which is I found it from
yeah,
the originals, and it's hilarious. But yeah, I just want people, the main thing is listen, just do it now. It doesn't matter what you did prior. Um, this opportunity is really amazing. And the number one reason why I'm talking about this opportunity, why this opportunity is there, the current figures out of the Tilt and a couple other websites that do this type of thing says that YouTube Shorts is getting 50 billion plays a day.
mhm,
That is psycho. That is
yep,
absolutely psycho. And it's like, well, that seems like a lot. Not really, because they have 2 billion people on their platform.
yep,
And everybody that sat down and watched Reels, TikToks, or Shorts has run through 20 of them suckers real quick without even knowing,
yeah,
especially on YouTube, because they're only 60 seconds, right?
yeah,
So people will run by them for a while. Now, some people, you'll know if you've been in Reels or Shorts or TikTok, you have sat down to do something, looked there for like 2 minutes, and a half an hour later, you're still scrolling and laughing and cracking up and going, "Oh, I didn't know that," kind of thing. So
yeah,
people do just crush those things. Now, what's happened, I just watched Nolan Moat talk about this on a podcast that he was on the other day, another friend,
Mhm.
and he said that he's noticing views on his podcast going up because people found it through the short, right?
Yeah.
And through the short that he was making about something completely irrelevant, a person commented on there. And then later on, the next day, he saw that person comment on one of the podcasts.
Yep.
So the person went from watching the short to finding them as a person. 9 times out of 10, you don't realize you do it. When you decide to creep someone's social media, you were intrigued by them as a person. And I don't mean that kind of creep. I mean, like, you're watching
Take a
a
look at.
you're
Yeah.
watching a
Yep.
podcast and Sarah starts talking about SEO last week's episode, right? And you're like, man, she knows more about
She knows
SEO
her stuff.
than I've thought of. And she doesn't sound like one of the SEO bros. I was trying to say a nice way to say that before I said something bad.
But it rhymes.
But
SEO
a,
bros rhyme, so it's good.
a lot of those SEO bros, they just come off as snake oil salesman from the gate. She doesn't
Mhm.
do that, right? So what do? You go and you go to her podcast, SEO Mindset. You start looking at that, right? You see what her and Tasman are doing, and then you find out that she's been doing this for a minute. So you go and you search maybe her name. You'll pull up her LinkedIn profile. She has
Mhm.
lots of tips there, right?
Yeah.
Or then you start like looking at some of her video content, and next thing you know, you're like mad subscribed to Sarah McD because she covers SEO with a British accent and you can understand it, and it's just better than you thought. That's
Yeah.
how you gain authority from
Yep.
doing your podcast. The number one thing you're doing it for in the first place for
Yep.
most of you is to gain authority in your space, to make it easier for you to get booked, for you to book clients, for you to sell a service, or for you to do like speaking gigs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll say, just to be totally, like, candid, honest with all of you, we're seeing 10 times the views on our YouTube podcast playlist, for lack of a better word, than we are getting listens on, all of the different podcast platforms. So, like, our average there, 40-ish people that are listening, to each episode, give or take. We're a fairly new podcast. We're smaller. We're just starting off and learning. But our YouTube, we're getting, 400, 500, 600 views in the span of a couple of weeks on those episodes. And that's not counting the views that are replays on these live streams, right? So I would wager, and I've been saying this more and more in interviews that I've been doing or just in conversations I've been having with folks. I'm willing to bet, in the same way that Doc, placed all of his bets on YouTube being a big player in the podcasting space. I'm willing to bet by the end of this year, all of these terminologies, podcasts, videos, shorts, live streams, those lines are going to blur real crazy between all of those. It's content, it's discoverability, it's putting yourself out there in ways that work for you and work for your customers. So whether you're live streaming or you're recording or whatever else, starting with video, like, if you are doing video at all, if you're live streaming at all, you have a podcast, turn it on. It's a podcast. If you're doing any kind of regular show or content, it's a podcast. It could be a live stream. It's also a video. These terms are going to become less and less relevant. What's going to matter is you showing up consistently, you showing up professionally, you engaging and building and growing your audience. So don't miss these opportunities. Hit that button and turn it on. Go forward and start with video, and then you can use each of the individual parts. But if you have only the individual parts, you don't have the main thing that you need to be able to reach an audience. So,
Yep.
if you're holding a carrot but you really need to make soup, make the soup that has the carrots in it. Give people the soup. If they only want to eat the carrots out of the soup, fine. If they only want to eat the apples out of the soup, fine. But don't only give them carrots if everyone just wants a soup. So I stop avoiding doing the video because it's scary or it's whatever else. Give them the video, and if they only want to listen to it, great, you've already done that. If they only want to watch clips of it, great, you've already done that. The hardest part is the video. So Get the video part done as easily as you possibly can, and the rest will come from there.
You
It
know,
really
you said something that is actually kind of epic, and
Thanks.
I'm looking, I'm thinking about this from, yeah, George. I heard the apple soup thing, and I was thinking that's like the most
I know, sorry, yeah. Yeah, it's a
Canadian thing
fall
I ever
soup.
heard of.
It's a
Right.
fall
And
soup.
see, sorry, I just for people that are listening to this and not watching it, I broke because George had the same thought. I said apple soup, like that is the most Canadian thing I ever heard. Anyway,
I
so
I have
I'm
a
thinking
really
about
I will send some recipes. I have a couple really good soups that have apples in them.
actually apples should make it thicker because of the pectin inside the apple. So I get that. I was thinking about I'm looking at the people in the chat and I was thinking of Rich, right? Rich
Mhm,
is a good example of a complete blurred lines podcast. Okay, so let's set this picture, if you will. There is a 60-second daily brief about what's going on in the promotions industry, right?
mhm.
That's Rich's thing, right?
Yep,
So he's talking about really cool things that companies are doing, like, somebody's making a say Budweiser just came out with like bamboo straws for the people that insist on drinking beer through a straw, something weird like that, right? He could have a 1 minute daily podcast of this is your big rich promotions minute. That's not the name of the show, but I'm just saying, right? So it comes in every day for 60 seconds, and it has to be 60 seconds because we're going to work on the short, and he's going to do just a news update. It's like you get on your Amazon flash briefing,
mhm,
or sometimes in traffic when you're driving, the local place where you live, the radio stations will have a little 1 minute brief about something that goes on really popular in your area, right? It could be
yep,
pumpkins in mass, right?
mhm,
So Rich would come on and be like, hey, this big Rich, boom, here's your morning minute. And he goes, runs through the thing, boom. He basically drops one of those every day, 5 days a week, that
mhm,
is posted as a short, but it's also a podcast that someone can subscribe to because the audio plays, right?
yep,
Works because it's that short. The video short works because it's that short. And
yep,
labeling it as a podcast playlist works because it's that short. We have all seen these minute briefs about fantasy football, about apps. There used to be a 1 minute app review
yep,
podcast that did extremely well back when iOS first came out.
yep,
And that's easy to pick up as is and drop it on IG, TikTok,
yep,
LinkedIn, all at the same time. And now we have apps like Canva. We could do the entire thing in Canva, like
yep,
never leave. Like open the app, say the piece, fix the visuals, publish, all straight out of Canva or Adobe
yep,
Express or whatever. So,
yep.
yeah, you're right. It is going to start to get blurred.
Well, and
Yeah,
you could take those in that example, and at the end of every week, you could do a like top, a top weekly roundup from it, and pull 1 point from each day, and then you have your weekly roundup. That could be a LinkedIn newsletter, that could be an email newsletter, that could be, there's again, if you're starting with something and you're doing it consistently, you can then build into your workflow. Okay, now I also want to be able to use that content in this way. You have the main content. It's really easy then to figure out how to repurpose it, how to break it out into a process that is repeatable and sustainable for you to be able to build and grow your business, and put content in the places where the people are, in the formats that the people want. So it feels more complicated than it really is, and we all tend to overcomplicate everything. What we really need to do is take the most complicated part, video, start with that, and then everything else is significantly easier down the road.
yep. And again, if you're willing to let the first 21, 22 episodes be hot trash, you don't have to edit. You can set it up in Ecamm so you press the button on the stream deck that allows you to have your title thing go, keep it
Mhm.
super short. As a matter of fact, I would almost skip it in this particular case because
Yep.
now we're doing it on YouTube on purpose. I would almost skip it, right?
Yep.
Especially for the one that's going to stay as the finished product.
Mhm.
So you basically have a quick, bumper. Then you talk your parts. Try to put the heavy hitters within the first 30 seconds because now we're on YouTube. The YouTube things count. Run
Yep.
right through your show. Finish that baby off. Never really say goodbye. Just be like, hey, I got another episode coming up for you next, and then end it. and
Yep.
then just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, they will start to work. I'm just telling you, just the way the YouTube space works. And there's so much people watching now. Every TV. Go to the store
I
today. Go to
I've
Costco.
now
Walk in every TV.
I've now started like and the more you do it, the more great ideas you will start having. Like on my personal podcast, now I'm like, okay, well, we've been hanging out like half an hour before we go live just to do like a quick sound check and to just touch base and make sure that we go through kind of our points. Now I like open up that sound check time in vertical format and I record, like top 10 favorite movies, top 10 favorite whatever in vertical format. I record like 4 or 5 of them now every sound check that's in my bank that I can then start sharing out. And then right before, we're about to go live, I switch back to our, normal widescreen format and then I'm ready to go for the episode. And again, I haven't done anything necessarily differently. Like we were already spending that time doing a sound check, which I think everyone should be
Right.
doing a sound or a tech check. But I'm leveraging that time and recording that time to be able to use that content later. And it again, I do zero editing on that podcast. I do not care. I am doing this for fun with a friend. I'm doing it to spend time with a friend. I think it's fun. Like the goal of that podcast is not to take over the world. But I will say the more that I do it, the less editing I would need, even if I wanted to do editing. And the more I'm able to create all kinds of different content, I'm able to put in all kinds of different places without spending an insane amount of time. So I really do think that it makes a difference thinking through how you can maximize your time, how you can use these tools more effectively, how you can create a process that, makes it fun, gets that content out to different people.
There you go. All right, gang. So if you haven't guessed it already, YouTube podcast is a thing, and you should definitely be doing
Don't
it.
ignore it.
We have instructions on our playlist that will tell
Mhm,
you how to go through it. Basically Ecamm channel on YouTube. If for
mhm.
some reason you missed all of that, YouTube's official channel has it. Like they give you the official instructions. They
Yeah.
have a podcasting best practices PDF, which you can find. And it's funny, people are like, well, how do you know all this stuff? Because I read the YouTube blog, people. They give all the answers, and then a whole bunch of people insert a word that I can't say on TV are on YouTube telling you what YouTube wants. YouTube tells you what YouTube wants. You just got to go get it and read it and stop listening to, Mike Michelson telling you like, oh, you should do this because YouTube algorithm is not even thinking about you. That's not how the algorithm works. It's just a mathematical equation. People stop
Mhm.
tripping. Anyway, so by all means, make sure you check us out on the Flow. You can find us flow.ecamm.com. If you really
Mhm.
like this episode, please drop in and drop a review on iTunes. Right now, that's still the best place to leave a review. And it is the absolute best thing you can do to support a podcast besides supporting them financially is to go to iTunes and leave a review. It really, really helps podcasters get found. And this is completely like any other podcast available at where all the podcasts getting is got and on YouTube. I got to update that list now. there's
It's
there's
missing
actually
something. Yeah.
YouTube Music has it. I do want to remind you, it's not searchable on YouTube Music yet. That is coming. Don't panic. Do it anyway. Yes, it's not searchable on YouTube yet, but it's coming. So do it anyway.
Do it
Don't
anyway.
wait for the thing to be perfect. If you do, it's just not going to work. Okay. So we'll see you guys next week for our recorded people. As always, a reminder this show is brought to you by Descript. Descript is our go-to platform for smoothing out our flow and our process, like Katie and Luis talked about at the top of the show. It
Mhm.
basically allows you to edit your podcast the same way you would edit a Word document. If you know how to use Word, you know how to use Descript. It will make your life so much easier and definitely give them a checkout. So yeah, we're going to roll into the Q&A version. If you're feeling a little bit of FOMO because you got cues and you wanted them aid, then come to the live taping. Every Tuesday, we do the live taping over here on YouTube. You are watching this on the replay edition, and we appreciate you for watching this on the replay edition. But if you really got cues, you need aid, please bring your A over to the YouTube space and check us out every Tuesday as we record this bad boy live. So thank you, Flow Riders. We'll see you guys next week. Ahui ho. Okay, Q&A people in the chat, don't go nowhere. That was only for the people that listen to the recorded
Don't
version
leave,
because
don't leave. We have some
the
cues. We
audio
need some
version
A's.
still exists. We got some cues that need A. Okay, so Zero NFL says, if you have live guests, do they need to have an Apple computer to make it work? Nope. You can use a phone. Don't. Don't, but you can. You can absolutely use a phone. You can use a tablet, anything. But
Can use
yeah,
a yeah,
computer work.
any kind of
They
computer or tablet or phone.
they don't have to have an Apple computer, but if your friends have Windows computer, question your friends.
Time for new friends. No, just kidding.
Those
You're welcome to bring
those
people
same
in anyway.
friends with Windows computers are probably like Broncos or Kansas City fans. So no, you can use any browser. On the Apple side, especially, like we tell people you want to use Chrome for the Apple side because Chrome just handles it better. Safari has
Yeah.
very tight security, and but on the if they're using a phone or another thing, they're able to use Safari. In Windows people, Chrome is probably still the best look. Firefox also works if you have someone calling in from a Windows machine, but it's just a web page that they dial in from. So there's that. Um, I do want to cover. Rich said, "Are you getting more YouTube views from the recording stream replays or the polished edited version?"
I just checked this morning. We are still at the moment getting more from the replays of the live streams than we are from the new YouTube podcast playlist. But we'll see if that it's getting closer. So there's more momentum on the YouTube podcast playlist than there is on this live stream, and part of it is probably just because we're Ecamm and our people know to show up live or to catch the live recording.
Yeah,
So we'll see if that turns. But I have been keeping an eye on it, and the YouTube podcast playlist is growing quickly and is certainly dwarfing our listeners over on any of the podcast apps.
I like that, and also want to remind anybody can be Ecamm. Like, don't copy us. That's part of the affiliate thing. Don't do that. But I mean,
Don't pretend to be Ecamm.
but what I'm saying is, like, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say this in the most normal way possible. Tay Tay used to just do videos of her singing on YouTube. At one point in time, Tay Tay had 20 followers.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no way to go from 0 to 20 million without passing 20.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like go. You can't pass go to collect $200. So it was like, well, how do you get your? I mean, like, what was like the first 1,000 followers? So it doesn't count. Like Mr. Beast has 38 million followers. At one point, even Jimmy had 20 followers. At one point, it was just Jimmy and his mom. He only had 2 followers. Right?
Yeah.
So like people have this concept that, the overnight success, that's probably the one thing that should get booted out of anybody's brain. Anybody that started wherever you are, started trash. I just saw something the other day which I thought was so dope, and I am so not a fan of this person, but you got to give the GOAT credit, even though I think he's more like GOAT. Um, Steph Curry was practicing before a game. Nobody else out there but him and the ball boys. And he's like, dribbling around the court, practicing his handles. And he went to go dribble the ball, and the ball kind of stayed at the bottom of the ground, like it was stuck.
Mhm.
So he picked it up and he bounced it a couple more times, and it bounced odd. So he stepped on the court. He's like doing a little step thing. And he looked at the ball boys and like, hey, come here. And so he bounced it a couple times, and he bounced it here. He told the ball boy, and the ball boy couldn't find the spot. And so Steph thought he was tripping. So he does it again. Boom, the ball goes the wrong direction. And he's like, look, there's a dead spot right here. And so he found it like exactly where it was. And he was able to replicate the ball hitting that exact dead spot every time. And where you would normally let go the ball and come back to your hands, it would come like halfway up. It wouldn't come all the way back to the hands. But only a person like Steph, who puts in the type of work ethic to be out there early. It hurts me to say this. He's the best freaking ball player in the damn planet. And he's still out there prepping for a game. Yep. Why is he the best ball player in the damn planet? Because he's still out there prepping. Right? Why, even in retirement, is Tiger still hitting 1,000 balls a day? Because when FedEx hey, we'll give you $2 million to show up at a tournament. Okay, he got to be able to play. Some
Yeah.
of you
Yep.
guys are still trying to find ways to mail in all of the stuff that matters, and you can't mail in the stuff that matters.
Yep.
Can you get a Luis to help you edit? Yes. But can you get better at speaking on the mic by paying Luis to do it? Edit out your mistakes? No.
No.
Right? It would just make Luis's job harder, and now you got to pay him more. But you know what make you not? Sorry, Luis, don't get scared. Will make you not need a Luis. Get really good at recording, so you don't have to edit,
Yeah.
and then you can be like, "Hey, man, we got to talk." Sorry, Luis. Don't get it twisted. We got more work for you. Don't go
We
there.
have way more work for you.
All right. So
Uh,
Larry
yeah, go
says,
ahead.
do you recommend still pushing like, subscribe, and notification bells for the podcast? I want to know what you think, Katie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not actually a big fan of aggressively asking for those kinds of things, but I don't think that it hurts. I feel like if you have great content, people are going to like, subscribe, and look for notification bell. We don't we don't do a lot of that on the videos here. I mean, occasionally we joke around in the live comments. We're like, "Oh, sad face, we don't have enough likes," and things like that. But yeah, I don't think it hurts. I wouldn't go overboard with it, because I just think that what matters most is your content.
I think in the past that was very big.
People
Yeah,
know
let's
that
leave
at
it.
this point. Like,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
know that they need to subscribe to a channel in order to get the content. They know that they need to turn on the notification. And if they don't, like, they're going to figure it out pretty quickly. Or if they really like your content, they don't need to have the notification bell to keep an eye on it. Like, they can add it into their
Right.
calendar. They can, they can stalk your channel until they see a new thing come out. So I don't think it's as relevant or as important as they made it seem. It's not going to
Yeah. I think
make or
the
break
goal
you.
is I honestly think that what everybody's goal should be is for your content to be so good that you never have to ask.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a good customer when you walk into your favorite restaurant and they come to the table with your drink already in their hand because they know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That level, that's where you want to be. You want to
Yeah.
be at the level where you don't have to ask. And in the past, that was a very thing. Remind
Yeah.
people, tell everybody subscribe because they don't know, they don't know. I think Katie's right now. Everybody knows. I think if you're doing your stuff well enough, you don't have to ask them to subscribe because the algorithm will put them where they need to be if you have something good to say.
Yeah.
And at this point, it looks a little bit thirsty, right? So you have to decide whether you want to be thirsty or not. I think it's fine to have it in the call to actions inside your text. I think if you're like real light with it, like at the very end on the way out, oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe on the way out. I think it's cool. Where it's really bad is when people ask, and every time I see this happen, and a lot of big channels do this, they ask at the very beginning of the video still, and
Yeah.
it's like, you haven't proven yourself
Yeah,
worthy
proving
of a
yourself, yeah.
like.
Exactly,
Like, don't do that.
exactly.
That's creepy. I think at the
Yeah,
end, if you still want to do it, it's fine. It's not a must. If you feel weird about asking that, don't ask because you don't really have to anymore. Just make the content dope.
yeah, yeah. Rich has a
Cool.
great question. I've been keeping a really close eye on this. So Rich asks if there are any issues with duplicate content live versus edited. We have been trying our best to clearly define the differences between them. So our live content is not the same as our edited content. Obviously it doesn't have the Q&As at the end. It's, it has been edited. Luis is editing these videos. So we have not run into any issues. We asked that question of Sarah last week, who was here talking all about SEO and how the algorithms work on YouTube and just general podcast SEO. So that's a good episode to go back and listen to if you haven't checked that one out. But yeah, no, we haven't run into any issues with that. Again, we are defining the differences and trying to be really cautious of, this is the video podcast, this is the like live stream that includes live chat and Q&A and all that. I know I just said that we blur the lines, and I think the lines are blurred, but I do think that the content and the overall experience of watching a replay of a live stream is different than watching the polished video edit.
Yeah, I think it's very. important to realize that YouTube is smart enough to know the difference between the people that are doing it correctly versus the people that are cheating, right?
Mhm.
The reason why duplicate content ever became a problem, Rich, is there were people that were cheating.
Yeah, they were using it to game
And
the system.
they were using it to game the system, and so
Yeah,
they put in guardrails to protect against that. I think they're fully aware that, especially in the title descriptions, the verbiage, the way people interact, and that's the big one, the way people interact with the live versus the replay. I
yeah,
think they're fully aware of the difference between the live and the replay. I think
yeah,
the duplicate content could be a problem if we were trying to say pick it up and put it on everybody's channel. Like if we
yeah.
were taking it and put it on my channel and then put it on Katie's channel, like that might cause an issue. But on the same channel, yeah, I don't think it's a
But honestly, it doesn't even cause, like, a huge issue. So, back a few
no.
years ago, we had Luria on our channel doing Go Live Now, and we were multi-streaming that. So she was doing, that show on our YouTube channel and on her YouTube channel. And at one point, I think also to, like, our Facebook and her it was going to, like, her channels, our channels, same content, and we were not, taking that down after it was live. We were not editing those. They were just staying up as live replays. I think she edited some of them on her end. We would get not copyright strikes, but like copyright matches notifications. She would get them and we would get them. But neither of us obviously pursued any of that or like let YouTube know that it was an issue or that,
Yeah.
we wanted that content taken down because we had an agreement. We were partnered together to create this content. And so we like those streams still saw pick up on her channel, they saw pick up on our channel, and that experience worked really well for us and helped to grow her audience and our audience. So and that was always kind of a question that we had. It was like, is this an issue? Do we think it's an issue? Is YouTube going to find it an issue? I think it's a much bigger thing in the world of blogging and website copy and much more of an issue with whether or not it ranks on Google than it is in the video YouTube side of it. Because again, the as long as no one is flagging it and letting YouTube know, yeah, actually this is an issue, the system just, identifies it, lets you know, but there's no ramifications that go along with it. So
It was super funny. I was trying to give the explanation to Rich, and I saw Paul's comment where
yeah, yeah.
Paul banned himself from the channel, which was and then he comes
Paul's
into the
always
Slack
testing for us,
like,
always testing it
"Hey, guys, I
out.
banned myself from the channel." I just thought that was so funny. That was Friday, yeah. I was crying. I
Oh,
was sitting over
yeah.
here in my shop just laughing at myself. I was like, "Wow,
Paul's the
Paul,
best.
that is the
Push
best thing ever."
This is a great example though of like pushing the buttons. These are great questions and these are questions that we have as well. And that again is the point of this show and the point in many ways of the kind of content program we have at Ecamm is if we don't do it and test and push and try and see, then we're not going to be able to answer those questions with authority for all of you. And we know that these are things that you need to know for your brands and your business and your shows. So we're happy to push those buttons and try those things to see, and I'm happy to say that in this case, like duplicate content has not caused any kind of issues for us. And we continue to grow slowly and steadily, both this podcast as well as all of our other live shows. And we haven't encountered any issues, but it was questions that we had. And it's why we tried it out to see whether or not it would work.
And I do want to remind people that this is hard, because I do this myself, and I catch myself all the time, and when I catch myself, I beat myself up over it, not physically, people, you know what I mean? Some of you guys are weird. Um,
Yeah.
I just want people to realize sometimes our questions, especially our questions that come from a scarcity position or a fear position,
Mhm.
are us trying to talk ourselves out of doing what we know exactly we're supposed to do, or we
Yeah,
need
we
to
don't want to
do,
look
or we
dumb
should
or we
do.
don't want to break
Right,
anything
right.
or yeah, exactly.
So you put yourself in positions to have those protective questions, but you always have to ask yourself, are those questions serving your audience first, and are they serving you secondarily?
Mhm.
And if if you completely screwed this up, will this hurt your audience? If the answer is no, then try it. If you completely screw this up, is it going to hurt you physically or mentally or whatever? And the answer is no, then try it. Like find a way to stop looking at things from a fear position and go far more into the experimental position,
Mhm.
And part of the reason why we can snatch a Hawaiian Airlines or a JetBlue to go wherever we want to go is because of people like Chuck Yates. Somebody had to be the guinea pig,
Mhm.
right? And because him and test pilots like him, this the Wright brothers and whatnot decided to try all of this stuff. Now we
Yeah.
can go to our favorite airport and get yelled at by people at the ticket desk.
Truth.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, I have this conversation with Emma all the time. We're always like, who was the first person that had to decide that
Mhm.
spinach was good, but poison ivy was maybe not a good look? Somebody had
Yeah.
to figure this
Someone
out,
had to try it
right?
out.
Like what became food and what was poison. And especially since all of the nightshades are primarily poison, but you can eat a tomato
Yeah.
and a bell pepper and not die. A couple
Yeah.
other them joints in the nightshade region, not
Not
so.
so
Hey,
much.
Dave, Dave, you good? Man,
Yeah.
Dave is not good. What
Da
is that thing
no
you
one
call?
eat those things. Yeah, exactly.
I think that was called. That's not an apple. I had an apple. Apple was good. Whatever Dave ate, let's draw a picture of that real quick. Steve, come over here. Steve got the pencil. He draws it. Poops on the ground. I see deer poop
Oh,
and bird. Okay, so birds can eat it. Deers can eat it. But damn, Dave, let's go. We just keep marching, right? All of that stuff
mm,
came through. Most of what you're doing right now, all the stuff on your desk, came from somebody taking fearless experimentation
yeah.
because they thought it would be the right thing for you. And now they're actually, being compensated for doing that. So think of it from that position. Sometimes, like, I'm going to do something curiously, have a backup plan, let your audience know if you're going to try something really crazy and just communicate that. If you communicate that stuff, you talk with people, you let them know what's going on in your space, more than likely you're going to be fine. And yes,
Dude, you could. Yeah, this is our new hashtag. Well, I
that was
know
from
Doc
David
has to
Hunt
run.
too.
Yeah, exactly. I know that Doc needs to run, but just again, reminders for all the Ecamm fam that are hanging out here in the chat. We have Leap Into Live coming up April 24th and 25th. Register at leapintolive.com. Free. We hope to see all of you there. Doc and I and Glenn are heading out to NAB in Las Vegas, which is coming up really soon here. I think it's like next week or the week after. If you are in Vegas or want to be in Vegas and you want a pass, we have, I think, like 8 or 7 free passes left to this event. So email us marketing@ecamm.com. We'll be happy to give you a pass until we run out of them. So, or meet up with you if you're in the Vegas area or want to be in the Vegas area, want to get in your car and drive to the Vegas area. We'd love to see you. And yeah, and Creator Camp is coming up really fast. I know it's April, and you're all like, "Oh, October is a million years ago or a million years away." It's not. It's coming up really
It's
fast.
not.
So
It's
make sure that you
quick.
go ecamm.tv/Creator Camp. Get on the wait list. Again, I am quickly and madly pulling people off the wait list and onto official tickets. So don't miss it. I don't want people later being like, I didn't know that it was coming. I can't help. I can't help. There's only 100 seats and I want everyone to be there. So make sure that you get on that list so that you can get off that list and over hang out with us. It's going to be really fun. Thank you,
Creator
Paul, for
Camp is
dropping all the
so
links.
good. Creator Camp is gonna be so good. And,
Oh,
I'm gonna have to well, Paul's not gonna be able to bail me out because Paul's gonna be with me.
yeah. Yeah. It's true.
Um, so
Yeah.
if a Tuesday rolls by and there's no stream, call the, Amesbury, Massachusetts Police Department and be like, "Have you seen, Paul Duncan and
We've
a
already let the police department know that a bunch of people are coming in. Yeah, no, it's going to
Doc
be fun.
Rock?" Yeah. Anyway,
Oh, well,
thank you
thanks to
guys so
everyone
much.
for
This
hanging
is
out.
super epic. It was a great topic idea for today, Katie, because
Yeah,
I think that's something that people forget to do sometimes is go back and check your flow. Make sure that everything is working. And so yeah, now people check your
now you
flow,
know.
check the pipes in your kitchen and stuff, make sure they're good. You should check them twice
Yep.
a year.
Yep.
Anyway, thank you guys. We'll see you again soon. Louise, press the damn button.
Bye, everyone.